Hello and welcome to another episode of Sharing Wisdom. I'm your host, Angie Wisdom, and today's episode is going to inspire you, but also give you practical tools that you can walk away with and start making changes in your life and in your business. My friend Justin Prince is joining me. He is the founder of Make Wellness, which, by the way, just celebrated the 100 million mark in 11 months of being in business. He's also the author of Be the One, all about claiming your identity to create the success that you want in your life. This episode is packed full of so much goodness. Man, Justin, I mean, first, before we even get started here, congratulations. The crazy success. Oh my gosh. I mean, you guys just had your 11th month and you crossed over the 100 million mark.
Yeah, listen, so I did a presentation today for like our kind of core leadership team. We have affiliates all over the country. And as I was going through the slide deck, this happened, no kidding, like an hour and a half ago. I was like, oh my gosh, like all emotional, like all of I was all up in my feels. And I think you know how this is. It's like you're living your day to day, you're solving problems, you're making stuff happen, and your day to day is your reality. But then all of a sudden you pause and you're like, you think back and the risk and the stress and the pressure and just all that goes into, creating life, and all of a sudden I just had a big flood of emotions. So this morning's been a bit all up in my feels, so I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I bet. And I mean, that was one of the questions I had for you because I know what that entrepreneurship is like. And like you said, you kind of just get into it and you're going through it. Like, have you stopped? Maybe it's just this morning. I know you guys had a big event as well, but to really soak it in and go, man, look what we have done, because this doesn't happen without a phenomenal product, a vision, leadership, which we'll all tap into. But how often do you just feel the success that you've created?
Yeah, it's such a good question. My experience has been, and you'd have to tell me if how you've seen it working with high achievers. One of the challenges high achievers have, and by the way, it's one of the reasons they're a high achiever. So it's a little bit of your weakness is your strength and your strength is your weakness, that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that we're so future focused. We have such compelling futures and we're so future focused that it can be sometimes a little bit of a struggle to slow down and to just really enjoy each moment. And so, and then the second part of that is, I never want to be the guy that was good in high school and talks about high school football. In other words, I'm always like what we're going to go accomplish next, the next vision of where we're headed. Yeah. I don't even want to talk about all this stuff in the past, And so, just because it's a compelling future, there's a lot to talk about that I'm excited about where we're headed, With that said, there's been a couple of those. This morning was for sure one of them. Just kind of those downloads where, it's I tell people there's kind of three sections to the journey. There's the dream, there's the struggle, there's the victory. Mm. And what's interesting, Angie, is they're all the same size. So, for example, if you have a big dream, you have a struggle equal to or commensurate to the size of the dream, and then a victory equal to or commensurate to the size of the struggle. Now, if you don't want a big struggle, that's okay. You just have to lower the dream and lower the victory. But what we can't have is what most of us want, which is huge dreams, huge victories, really small struggle in the middle. It just isn't how it works. And so, to this morning, it kind of hit me as it was one of those little bit of a victory moment where you're getting with your leadership team, you're congratulating them. It's actually the first time we officially let them know, like that officially happened, because it's a goal we've all been chasing. And so to slow down with them for a few minutes and just get in your feels and think about the struggle. And I want to share this with all of your audience that's maybe in that section. They're more in the struggle section than they are the victory section. My friends, take really good notes. People are going to relate more to your struggles than they will your victories. Mm-hmm. Like even this morning on the slides, we're showing like some of those early whiteboard sessions and some of the early times and some of the pain that you've been through. And so just take good notes. Like, you know how it is when you're in the struggle section, you want to get out of there as fast as possible. Like, get me out of here. This is terrible. But also just remember that section is part of this journey, and it's part of what makes the sweet taste so good as the bitter, So
yes.
So I probably could get better at it, to be totally honest, just to answer your question as far as slowing down and enjoying it. But man, it does feel good to feel it every once in a while and just to recollect and remember,
So good. And you're spot on. All my high achievers, it's one of the challenges for them
Yeah.
is to stop and feel it. I think for a couple of reasons. One, you don't want to get too ahead of yourself. You don't want to
Yes.
get comfortable and rest in your laurels and all that kind of stuff. And we've got work to do type of mentality. But there's also so much to come from the present moment and soaking it in, because you do get that fulfillment, and you also kind of boost even more belief and confidence and fuel to go forward. So I always love it when somebody has a big team and you've kind of blessed so many people with what you're doing, because it almost requires you, because not everyone is built that way. They like to stop and celebrate the
Yeah.
wins and feel all the feels. So as a leader, it really puts you in the spot where you're like, all right, we got to do this for everybody, right? And get into it with them. So it's just fascinating and amazing that you've created such success in a short amount of time. So let's talk about that a little bit, because certainly, not what you were groomed for and what you were born into. You had, a difficult childhood. You had your split parents. You even talk about, same with me, didn't go to college, don't have some big fancy degree, but here you are. So take me to kind of the belief that first came into your mind. Like, at what age did you all of a sudden realize, what, I'm doing it anyways?
It's so interesting. I've been actually reflecting on this a lot lately. I remember as early as I can remember as a little kid feeling like I wanted my life to matter. And I felt like there was part of me that could make it matter, that I could make a difference in the world. And I don't know. I don't know how that hits people when they hear that. I don't know if they hear it and say, that sounds arrogant or weird, or if they say, I feel the same thing. I don't know. I don't know how that hits people, but I would be lying if I didn't say I felt that on my life, even as a young kid. Remember when I was 12 years old, I was in the sixth. No, we just started seventh grade. So I just barely started seventh grade, right before I turned 13. And I'm sitting there in this math class. I'm looking out the window. I'm not listening to anything the teacher's saying. I was kind of in a daze. My parents were going through this divorce, just a really uncertain time and painful time. And you're going, as a young kid or young man, young woman, you're kind of like, your whole life's kind of getting flipped upside down. Your dad's moving out. Like my mom has had to move. Just like, what is happening, And I remember just looking out the window, and I remember saying to myself, you remember, because can you guys think of this, as you listen, like on the one shoulder, like on the cartoons, they have like a little angel, and on the other shoulder, like in the cartoons, they have this little devil,
Yes.
The little devil was whispering in my ear, and it's like, dude, you can do whatever you want now. Like you can like drink alcohol, you can do drugs, you can have sex with girls, you can flunk out of school, and for the rest of your life, you can just say to people, my parents got divorced when I was 12 and 13. Like, this isn't even my fault. Like, what did you expect? I was going on. It's just like, you got like a get out of jail free card forever, with this excuse. And I had this little angel on the other shoulder saying to myself, yeah, that's all true. You can do that, but it's your life. It's like your life. And so if you want to go, in other words, live the fruit of that life, you can. And you can even blame your parents, but you're the one that has to live in that life. Like it's your decision. And I remember just thinking, it's like arguing back and forth with these little, conversations on my shoulders. And I finally said, I'm not going to make excuses, and I'm going to go live my own life and build a happy life. I'm like 12 years old, almost 13, having this little conversation in my brain, And I look back now, and you know how it is. It is these moments. It sounds cliche and it sounds personal developy, but it is so true. It's these moments of decision. So the root of the word decision, it's the decision meant to cut and the D meant off. So when they created the word incision, an incision cut in and a decision cut off. So what it means is you come to a moment of your life and you make a decision, in this case, to go left. Well, what happened? You cut off all possibilities of going right because you made decisions. And one thing I'll share with all of you right now is you listen to this. Maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're in your car, maybe you're on a walk. And Angie, just for even you and I, every decision that you and I have made our entire life has put us in this conversation right now. Like these are divine rendezvous. Like you and I had appointments to be here. We made decisions. Every single one has led us to this moment. And I tell people, you've never been this old before. You'll never be this young again. And you can't always control what happens in life, but you can control what happens next. Because right now you can make a new decision to say, I'm the one. I'm going to go be the one for my family. I'm going to go be the one that, lives a life and writes a story that future generations know who I am. And you can make that decision starting right now. And it is those moments of decision when the destiny starts to be shaped and forged.
So true. I mean, choice. I talk about choice all the time. And cliche or not, it's just fact. We all have choices and decisions to make every single day. And I mean, gosh, at 12 years old, you're talking about like the insightfulness and the awareness was just massive for you. So what a blessing there. And you talk about like this ability to choose at that age to even have that insight is just remarkable. Do you feel like since then you've always had these clear, like, here's my choices, go right, go left, choose this, choose that? Like, were they always very clear for you?
Look. Let me make sure I clarify. I'm not a perfect person. I make all the mistakes just like everybody else does. Through those next number of years, like at kind of 15, 16, you're kind of figuring stuff out, early 17. But I kind of had kind of a faith resurgence at 17. I really felt like God started working on my heart and just really, I remember thinking to myself, I had this, even as a kid, like a high schooler, I kind of had this like natural charisma. I was kind of a natural leader. People would follow me. And I was using it more to get girls to kiss me than I was using it to like lift people up and inspire people and stuff. And I remember thinking, man, I want to use this kind of natural, in essence, pull power that I have more to like help people versus, to kiss girls, when you're 17 years old. And so I felt like God kind of worked in my heart there. And then, it's, my wife and I got married when I was 22. So my biggest fear, so Angie, check this out. My biggest fear was marriage. Because, you've been through the pain of this, watching your folks go through a divorce. And so I remember thinking like, I don't know if I'll ever get married. And I'll date forever. And before I decide and all this kind of stuff. The day I met my wife to the day we were married was 3 months. Like
Wow.
on our third date, we went for a drive and I pulled over and we're like overlooking the city. And I said to her, I go, well, I'm definitely going to marry you. I'm like, I'm not sure when, but I'm definitely marrying you. Cause she was just my girl. I just knew it, So from that point, a year later, it'd been 13 months later in February, we were married in January. February, we had our first little baby. And then we had 6 pregnancies and 4 kids over the next number of years. We had a stillborn birth and a miscarriage. And here I am. So my point is life's kind of coming at you fast at this point, right? You're married and you got a kid and you've got more kids and you've got the medical bills and you're just trying to like keep your, head above water, And so I just didn't have time to goof around. I just kind of got locked in and was like, if I didn't work out, so like my days were, I would try and exercise, work, or be with my family. I just basically did those 3 things for like the next 20 years, like I would exercise each day, I'd be with my family, or I'd be working, one of those 3 options. And that it's funny now, like if you read Think and Grow Rich, one of the characteristics of Think and Grow Rich. So Think and Grow Rich, as you know, Napoleon Hill wrote it. His life was financed by W. Clement Stone. So in other words, W. Clement Stone said, listen, I'll pay your kid's soccer tournament. I'll pay your mortgage. I'll buy your groceries, but I want you to go write this book. And so it took him 22 years to do it. And he was a compilation of the 500 most successful people in the world at the time, right? This was the Carnegies and the Henry Fords and, Edisons and so on. So he goes and interviews them. And one of the characteristics I thought was interesting is one of the characteristics of success is they were married. And I think one of the things that happened in my life that was such a huge blessing. I tell people, I go, Missy, who my wife's name is Missy. I said, Missy's actually the real star of the show. I'm more on the stage. I'm more kind of on social media. Like in other words, I'm more the public figure, if you will. But she was this like rock and just this super fiercely loyal and like this rock, this really stable rock at home. And she just had the house like unlocked. And so the way I would process it is like, if you're single, you have this, you're burning some emotional calories of like, when are we going to go out and how are we going to meet people? And what am I going to say? And what am I going to wear? And you're kind of going through all those emotional thoughts. I could take all of that energy and just funnel it into like succeeding basically. Or if your house is a mess or your marriage is a mess or your life is a mess, or maybe you're double-minded and you're living a totally different life and people see and whatever, that takes a lot of emotional energy to do that. All that stuff just kind of got wiped out and I could just kind of focus on succeeding and serving and getting better and improving and all that kind of stuff. And so I look back now and I'm like, man, she is the real rock and real star of the show. She may not get public credit, but she's the real reason it all happened,
Instrumental. Yeah. And I hear you. What you're saying is like, we've had this conversation before about values. Basically you were like, I was locked in family,
Yes,
work,
yes,
health.
yes.
Like you just
100%.
constantly made these choices in alignment with your values that allowed you to maximize your bandwidth, right? You
Yep.
didn't have all this bandwidth drainage going out to, like you said, what this is a mess and we're going out and I'm going to try to meet a girl. You got to really hone in on your values, which is just so key. I still say that it's like the most foundational thing that everybody should understand so that you can make those decisions in alignment with what's so important to you.
So I want to hit
Um,
a
yeah,
quote that I think will tie all this together. I think you'll
yeah.
appreciate this. So Roy Disney was Walt's older brother. So Walt was more kind of the visionary. Roy was more the executor, more the details and execution. And Roy has kind of this famous quote that says, when your values are clear, your decision making becomes easy. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about decisions earlier. We talked about values. It's like the more you can clarify, here's who I am, here's what I value, here's what my values and principles are. The more you can clarify that, then the decision making becomes so much easier because you're not. There's an old Bible verse that says that a double-minded man's unstable in all his ways. It's like when you're just trying to like fit into the crowd, and when you're this crowd, you're this way, and that crowd, and whatever. It's like, no, this is who I am. I'm okay with who I am, and I'm going to go pursue it. That makes your decision making much easier when your values are clear and succinct.
It really does. You remove the feeling element, right? Well, I feel like doing this. I don't
Yeah.
feel like doing that.
Do I
What
not feel
people
like doing
think.
exactly right?
Yeah. And you just get to hone in on those values and the self-trust that builds, right? Which I think is, you've got to say that comes in play for you, right? In building this company and leading these people, when you execute these decisions that are based upon your values, you increase your confidence, you build this self-trust. Those big decisions that later, when you're talking about being in the struggle zone, have got to be easier for you because you've got the skill set.
Yeah, so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of the things when you and I had when you were on my podcast, we talked a lot about self-trust.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that so true? It's like you build basically in this literally self-trust with yourself because you keep stacking, making commitments and keeping commitments to yourself.
Yeah.
You're like I'm going to wake up at 7, and you wake up at 7. It builds that trust that when I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And obviously, the way you build it with other people, in this case, trust with someone else, is you keep commitments to them. But man, when you make and keep commitments to yourself, and you are clear, and you're true to your value system, you start to stack levels of trust, and it's a great way to kind of frame it. And by the way, I tell people, so I teach a cycle, a 3C success loop. So imagine that each one feeds the next, which feeds the next, which feeds the first one, which feeds, kind of spins like a momentum or a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is confidence. So it's the thing about self-trust. Self-trust is what? Well, at least a portion of it is I have confidence in myself. I'm going to keep my word I
Right.
make to myself. That's the trust level or confidence level I build with myself. And the foundation of your success is believing in yourself. Like, it's hard for us to get everyone else to go believe in us if we won't even believe in us. Like, believe in yourself. You've been through hard things. Like, and again, it doesn't mean you have to have perfect confidence or no fear, but you have a baseline of like, I'm not a quitter. I'm going to I'll be
Mm-hmm.
resilient, like some confidence or self-trust, right? That leads to commitment, because where there is no confidence, there is no commitment. And if you think about it, if you're starting an exercise program and you have no confidence this is going to work, like, I'm going to go do all this work and it for sure will not get me where I want to go. Well, how committed are you going to be to it? Like, zero. Or you're starting a business and you're like, I have no confidence we're going to pull this thing off. Zero. Well, how committed are you going to be to the business? Well, not very, because you have no confidence, right? So where there is no
Mm-hmm.
confidence, there's no commitment. And by the way, my take on commitment is this. You know how it is. We're sort of in, then we're out, then we're back in, then we're like
Yeah.
emotionally, sometimes in entrepreneurial, it's like this huge roller coaster ride. In math, what's the fastest way from A to B in math? And the answer is it's a straight line, just straight line. So one of the things I
Mm-hmm.
would encourage you guys to think about is like a straight line commitment. What does straight line commitment mean? It means you're just in. You're in on the good days. You're in on the bad days. You're not so high, not so low, not so up, not so down. So there's really two great questions a leader asks when times get tough. Question one is, how far do I fall? That's a depth question.
Mm-hmm.
Question two is, how long do I stay down, which is a duration question. So in other words, when you go through those challenges of life or entrepreneurship or, you know, the struggles we all face, how far do you fall emotionally? Because some of us we know people that have hit, or maybe it was us, they've been through real life stuff and they've hit rock bottom. Like they fell all the way to the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was addiction or bankruptcy or divorce or abuse, like real life challenges. We also know people. So the first question is, how far do I fall? Second question, how long do I stay down? That's the duration. Because Angie, you and I both know people that have been through some real life stuff, and man, they're living their best life now. Like that divorce was just brutal, or that addiction you thought was going to kill them, and yet they are living their best life now because they bounced back. That's the resiliency of entrepreneurship, or of humans. And so we also know people that hit rock bottom and they're still in rock bottom 6 months, 6 years, 60 years later, right? So they never bounce back. And so question one, how far? Question two, how long? That builds commitment, straight line commitment. And then that builds competency. So competency is basically your skill set. You build skill above the talent. You know, your talent's your floor, your skills, your ceiling. You just build this skill above talent. Now, here's what's interesting. The more competent you become, what happens? It feeds your confidence, because now you're not just doing it on like, I believe in myself. You're doing it like, I'm really good at this. You know, like I got some skills, you know. Then your skills and your competency and your confidence, that drives more commitment. I'm even more locked in. That drives more competency building. That drives more. So anyway, you start spinning that success loop. But it all starts with that self-trust of, do I make and keep commitments I make to myself? And that builds that confidence base.
Yes. So good. And you know what? I want to make sure people heard what you said here, because I love to separate confidence and competence. Too many times people put them together, you know, as if like their confidence depends on being super competent at a skill. And you're saying here, I want people to hear, like, your confidence is your belief in you, not that you could be the number one keynote speaker, the number one CEO, or that you know how to lead, but just like, do you believe? Do you believe that you can make this happen, that you can learn, that you will show up, that resiliency piece again and again and again until it happens? So I love that you put both of those, you know, kind of on different ends there. So talk to me about, obviously, everything you're giving us, right? Like people can hear, like, this is why this guy has created this massive success that he has. But talk to me about the vision. When you started Make Wellness and you were like, this is what I want to put out there. Obviously, all this went into it, but what was your vision and your why behind that?
Yeah. So it's been about 8 years ago. I went to Costa Rica with John Maxwell. If you're familiar with John Maxwell, he's New York Times bestselling author. He wrote 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, written almost like 100 leadership books. Inc. magazine says like the world's foremost authority in leadership. So I'm in Costa Rica with John, and it's a small group of us. There's like 10 or 12 of us, and we're doing what's called a country transformation. So we're like in a Sprinter van. You're getting police escort through the country. You're going to the police graduation with 3,000 cadets. We went to the National Theater black tie event for all the top business people. We went to the U.S. Embassy, met with the U.S. ambassador. It was just this totally surreal experience. Went and met the head of FIFA, met the soccer team, the whole thing. So I share that with you to say, one of the women in the group is this really small group of these kind of successful folks, right? One of the women had silver hair. Her name is Barbara. We sat in the back seat of the Sprinter van one time, and I said to her, so Barbara, how do you know John? Or, you know, how did you get connected to this group, whatever? She goes, I was John's original assistant about 40 years ago when he was a young pastor. So if you know the John Maxwell's kind of story, he actually started as a Christian pastor, and then it was putting out books, but they were like kind of Christian books. And then he had people saying, hey, we're like pulling your Christian books, but we're leaders, like we're leaders of corporations, for example. And we like the leadership principles. So he kind of went hard towards just like his calling kind of became this, like, I'm going to be a leadership expert. So she said she and her husband moved across the country to Washington State from the Deep South. And so she gave him a gift. And the gift, he opens it up, and it's a book. The book's titled The Greatest Story Ever Told. And he opens it up because he loves to read, and there's no words. So greatest story ever told, and there's all the pages are blank. And he goes, Barbara, something must be wrong. There's no words in this book, you know? She goes, turn to the first page. So he opens it, and she had handwritten him a little note. And he's 27, she's 29, just young kids. She writes him a note, and the note says, John, your life is before you. You go fill this book. with kind words, good deeds, and matters of the heart, and you go write the greatest story ever told. Well, over the next 3 days, he writes down 3 kind of vision statements for his life. And the first one he writes down was, I want to make a difference. The second day he wrote down, with people that want to make a difference. And the third day he wrote, doing something that makes a difference. And that kind of gave him a lot of clarity and mission and vision for his life. So check this out. 2 years ago in 4 days, on October 12th of 2 years ago, I'd built a company where I'd been there for 11 years. We'd done 2.5 billion in revenue. We were owned by a private equity group, but I came in as a part of a transformation team, transformed this existing company, and we built this huge business. And at the end of 2021, the equity group had pulled out a humongous amount of debt onto the company. So the way that works, by the way, is they extracted the cash out from the bank out of the business, right? They got paid, but then the business now has this big debt to pay off. Mm-hmm. And in 2022, when revenue softened, it put the business basically in a almost impossible financial situation. It's basically going to go bankrupt. Is on the verge of destruction, even though we were still a multi $100 million business at this time. And long story short, I'd created this company. I was a small minority equity partner. I was the number one earner in the sales organization. I'd made just an absolute fortune. You're kind of living your best life. You're training, you're speaking, you're doing the books, all the stuff. Like, you're living your best life. By the way, this is like, you are in that victory section. Remember we talked about like the dream, struggle, victory, guys. I was through the struggle and I was in the victory, and like, you're living your best life. So October 12th of 2 years ago, I landed in New York for fall break, and it's about 10:35 at night. We're pulling up at the hotel. It's dark. Got my little family in the back, and I look at my email, and I get an email from one of the largest law firms in America saying, you're terminated, and we're going to sue you. And I'm like, I literally look at it and I'm like, I'm terminated. And my little girls are in the back and they go, what does terminated mean to each other? And the other one turns to her and she says, I think Dad got fired. And my little girl goes, I thought Dad was the company. Like, what are you talking about? So anyway, to validate this termination, basically their whole thing was revenue's tight. You can imagine some PE New York person. They look at a spreadsheet, man, who's making all this money? Get rid of them. Yeah. And so they built this entire kind of campaign to drag you through the mud as somehow a villain on this whole thing. It was it was the most surreal experience ever. So here you are, your entire income is now stopped after 11 years. Your entire community is ripped from you. Your whole business is ripped from you. And you're spending $100,000 a month to defend yourself in the legal system with a completely bogus bullcrap thing. And I sued them back, and it was just kind of locking horns. And I also don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. And so you say, so where did Make Wellness come from? What I knew for sure was this. I knew that I wanted to make a difference. Like, I knew that with the voice that I have left, the years or days and moments that I get left, and I don't know how long that will be, but man, I hope it's a while. I knew with my life, I want to make a difference. And then I was going to get into speaking and coaching and just double down on like kind of my speaking coaching. But I thought, I really want to make a difference with people that want to make a difference. I wanted to build a huge community. I wanted to create a global movement, where we could really move, because I look at our country, Angie, and I feel like, first of all, I love our country, greatest nation in the history of the world, but I also feel like we have an underneath of we need a leadership revolution. We need to build the next generation of leaders. Like, sometimes I look at our leaders and I'm like, is this the best we got? Like, come on, we can do better than this, And where that starts, it ultimately starts with you and with me. In other words, all change starts with us. We can't tell everyone else what to go do. We got to, make your own bed kind of thing. But once you're the best version of yourself, and that's what I wrote a book called Be the One. I'm just like, that's my passion, is help people be the best version of themselves. That leads into strengthening the homes. Like, if you want to change the world, you got to strengthen the home. You got to get your house in order. Like, man, strengthen those marriages, strengthen those kids, pour into these kids, be a good example to them. That leads into strengthening our local communities, ultimately changing our country, and then ultimately changing the world. So I knew I wanted to make a difference with people that want to make a difference. And then we went on this search. I spent the last 20 years in wellness, like health and wellness. And I'm super passionate about it. I love wellness and the whole thing. But I also was like, I don't want to have, you've read the book, the marketing book, like Blue Ocean Strategy. Mm-hmm. It's like, I didn't want to do a red ocean product, multivitamin. It's like, oh my gosh, now you're just arguing why yours is better than theirs, and we have more B's, whatever, than you. It's just it's a terrible argument. I wanted to do something that was blue ocean, something that changed the future of wellness, really move the discussion way forward. And so we found these research labs, these biotech labs around the world that were using artificial intelligence data platforms that they had built to identify and isolate and do human clinicals with peptides from nature. So a lot of the peptides you're hearing about now, the folks are injecting. Those are what's called synthetic peptides. What that means is they're these chemical compounds that in a lab, they compounded together to create a peptide. So synthetic basically means fake. It's not a naturally occurring peptide. They squished them all together to create a peptide. Pharma has thrown billions of dollars at this. And because peptides are cell signaling. So check this out. This is really important. Like if you and I take a normal nutritional supplement or even eat a carrot, like the nutrients come in your body and it tries to look around and see where you're deficient and give you some vitamin K here and some vitamin C there and just tries to like trickle down and find where it needs to go. Peptides are cell signaling. You can talk directly with precision to the cell signaling. Bam, turn this on, turn that off, make it work the way it's supposed to. And it's the reason, like you're watching with the GLP-1s, they can talk directly to your hunger signal, like yes or no, like are you hungry, not hungry? It's cell signaling. It's really, really dynamic. And so the challenge though is you have the regulations of pharma, you have synthetic peptides, coming from these labs. They can break apart. You need to go get your blood drawn, do lab work, be under doctor supervision. When they break apart, they can be harmful and disruptive to your system and your body because now you have these kind of chemicals floating around. That's why you cycle on, cycle off. And I remember just thinking, man, what if there was a way to do this where they were literally naturally occurring from nature? They helped your body work the way your body was designed to work versus kind of come in like with a sledgehammer. And when we found these labs and created these partnerships, I literally was like, they're what's called bioactive peptides, like these nature-based peptides. I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, we are going to crush this. Like, this is such a big story. It's so important. And so I knew I wanted to make a difference with people that wanted to make a difference, doing something that makes a difference. And that was kind of the vision of where Make was started is that simple concept. And that's kind of how we started and launched and what we've been doing since.
I just love the story behind, like, if you want to make a difference, right? The people have to change, right?
Yes.
And the wellness component of it's just undeniable when you feel good, when your body's working at that optimal kind of phase or, energy, you are a better person. You produce better results. You create a different ripple in the world. And so I just love that while you have this approach to make the world better and to bring up a next generation of leaders and all that, it starts with wellness. And especially in a time where, oh my gosh, I mean, the wellness component in our world, the food, just the additives, everything out there that's causing such, detriment to our medical system or our health, it's just refreshing. And so I love that it took this angle. But I'm curious, like, when did you know this worked? Because obviously with crossing over 100 million revenue benchmark over 11 months, people aren't continuing to buy this product unless it's working.
Yeah, of course. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So check this out. You know what's so interesting? I'll share with you kind of a take I have about life.
Yeah.
Before something really positive happens, like something that could be like a huge force for good, I do feel like you'll feel like a counter pull of like,
yes,
I mean, call it the forces of darkness, call it whatever you want. So like right before we launched the product, it was October of last year. So October 28th of last year is when we shipped our very first products. About a week before, maybe 10 days before, it was like every hater in the world, just weird, random, weirdo haters just came out and just started just trying to crush on our business. It was, if you remember when Jesus was born, and I'm not comparing our business to Jesus, but just to make the point, when Jesus was born, King Herod had this kill every baby boy, because King Herod is basically like, if they're saying the king of the Jews, if we just kill him when he's a baby, then, I don't have any threat. There's a little bit of this, like, can we kill this thing while it's young? It was maybe a way to think about it, right? And so I remember thinking, I was like, they're like, these products are stupid and it's not going to work. And stuff. And I knew we had all the clinicals and all the research. I was just like, no, this is bull. But you know how humans are. People are easily persuaded and we don't know and whatever. And by the way, no one had taken the products yet. Yet. And man, when we shipped those first shipments and people started getting these products in their system, it was like, to give you an idea. So check this out. You'll appreciate this. So let me share with you some numbers because you'll appreciate this
Yes,
owning and
yes.
running businesses, right? And anyone listening that runs business, you'll appreciate this. So our first month projections, first month, by the way, we had 4 selling days, October 28th, 9th, 30th, 31st. We had 4 days. In our first 4 days, our goal was to sell 400,000. So 400,000 would be 100,000 a month. And can you imagine any one of us, like 100,000 a day for 4
Yeah.
days to launch our company? We're all like thrilled, right? So we sold 6.4 million in 4 days. And it was
Wow.
just like the demand was just so significant. Now that creates both operational, just like, oh crap, challenge, but then it also creates a little bit of pressure, or a lot of pressure, for the next month, because you don't want to have like what would be kind of like a pop and drop. Like, it's like good month, but then it was just hype. It was just excitement. Like, this,
Mm-hmm.
like, because now you have to get into like your reorders, and do people like it? And are they, do they have adverse reactions? And is it going to be a positive thing? And by the way, there's no way you could have that much pent up energy for next month. So the next month was November, and 6.4 million in the 4 days. We did 7.2 million in November. We shipped 60,000 orders in November. And Andrew,
Wow.
remember, this is from a dead stop. Like, we're like, you're hoping that your software systems are going to talk to each other. Like, the credit card talks to the thing, which takes to the warehouse, like ships it. I mean, you're just like trying to make sure it all works. And in the last 11 months, we've shipped just barely under 1.5 million products and product, orders, and 100 million in revenue in 11 months. Our goal was to do it. Our first year projection was to do 18 million, and we did 100 million in 11 months. And so just one of those kind of beautiful, crazy, wild, once in a lifetime,
Yeah.
success stories in business that says that's the power of having great products. The other thing I would share with you is this: if you looked at our, what I call it's your subscription volume, so it's your reoccurring revenue volume.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a business coach, you'll appreciate this. There's KPIs in business, right? There's like key performance indicators. And if all we're doing is just net new every month, so in other words, you put them in, they fall out. Put them in, they fall out. Put them in, fall out. At some point, that business is in trouble, right? You got to be building a subscriber base, so
Mm-hmm.
that you start building this, like, some stability in the business. I've never seen subscriptions like this. I've never seen anything like it. Like, people get on our peptides and they love them and they stay,
Yeah.
and the peptides make a difference in their health and in their life. And so that combination, and then the operational excellence behind the scenes from our management team and so on, and then just the professionalism and the prowess of our affiliate marketers. They're just so good at what they do, at sharing this story and educating the population. If you stuck these products on a shelf, at Walmart, no one tells the story of what a bioactive peptide is. You need someone to tell that story, and our affiliates have done a really incredible job.
Amazing. And I mean, I feel like I have to have full disclosure here. I am one of your subscriptions, right? So as people are listening to this,
Yeah, we
and that
appreciate
was
that.
part of the reason I wanted to have you on the podcast, because obviously I knew a lot of the story, but it's just when you make something that sells itself, like, yes, you can't put it on, the shelf, maybe in Walmart, but your people believe in it so much. You see the results. It's something really special. And there's so much that goes into that. So I thank you for the product, because when all the peptide stuff started coming out, I was in the same space of like, I don't want to be injecting something. I don't want to go through this hassle. Could something like this really, really work? And it was through Moira, right? That I
Yeah.
saw results and was like, it's easy. Like, I'm going to give it a try. It's very easy to try and then decide. And I'm like, man, it shifted so much. And I don't want to make this a whole testimony about that, but I believed in it so much. And that's why I was like, I got to have him on here to share the story.
No.
So
So we're
kudos to
listen.
you.
Yeah, listen. Anyone that starts a business, you're grateful for every single one of your customers, because
Yeah.
every single one of them basically took a risk to say, "Hey, I'll exchange my dollar and my hard work for this product that you've created," and it just is meaningful every single time. So we just are very grateful for your support. It means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So this kind of brings me to your book. You mentioned it earlier. And as we look at this whole conversation, right, how you started and these decisions that you made, obviously starting Make Wellness. And then it's like, I want to bring in this concept that you even touched on it a little earlier on this, we're here in this divine moment, like we
Yep.
had appointments to be here. So there's this deep, deep belief in you that kind of traces back to like everything happening for a reason, and probably some faith components. And you wrote this book, Be the One, that is just, when you describe it, it kind of hits you to your core of like, not become the one, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
are the one, right? Be the one. It's already within you. And belief is just so, so important in what I preach every day. So tell me where that kind of came from. When did
Yes.
that story hit you?
So first of all, you just nailed it. Like you just nailed it. There's two parts. And my friends, I want to share this with you because success is an identity process, and you're never going to outperform the way you see yourself. This goes back to the self-love, self-trust thing.
Yeah.
And if you see yourself as a loser, you're not going to show up and play like a winner. If you see yourself as a winner, you're not going to show up and play like a loser. The story is told of two little boys, one of which stole the candy. And they said to the kids, "Did you steal the candy?" And the little boy said, "I didn't steal the candy." And they said to the little child, "Did you steal the candy?" And the little boy said, "I don't steal." So I didn't steal that particular piece of candy is an action. I don't steal is an identity. And over time, you will be consistent over time with this way you see yourself. And so there's two parts to the book. First one, you just talked about this. The first one is that you're the one. You're the one. So, Ange, think of it this way. If you were to take your parents, by the way, anyone listening, think of this. Think of mom and dad. Think of mom and dad. Think of your grandparents. So there's two, mom and dad. Grandparents would be four. And then your great grandparents. How many of you knew your great grandma, great grandpa? There's eight. If you go up 12 generations over about 400 years was 4,094 people. 4,094 people. So think about it this way. Over the last about 400 years, 4,094 people from all over the world have come together to create you. You are the one. And you are the one these folks have lived for and bled for and cried for and died for and gave everything they had for, is for you to have this moment. These breaths are all gifts from the mutual sacrifice of all of these people, the 4,094. And so once you realize, I'm the one for my family. Like, I'm the one. It's an identity process. You're like, realize I'm not just like a random one. I'm the one. When that shifts, then you realize the challenge or the invitation of life is not to become the one. My friend, you are the one. That's identity. The second part is to be the one that you were born to be. Be the one that lives a life. Be the one that writes a story that future generations look up in that family lineage and they say, it was her. Or it was him. Like, he's the one. It was my great great grandpa. Like, the economic principles that set our family free, it was my great 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 grandma. She's the one that taught this. Or the addiction and the abuse, it stopped with my great great grandpa. Like, he just said, no more in our family. Like, enough is enough. We're not doing this anymore. So be that one today. And so be the one that you make new decisions to say, I'm the one for my family. It's starting literally right now. And then the book to me was, I hope it inspires people and I hope it motivates people, but really I hope it teaches. Like, I put systems and frameworks and formulas, because I look at my life and I'm like, I was asked once after I did a magazine interview, and we're kind of taking the microphones off, and it was an interview like on leadership, for example. And the interviewer goes, "Hey, I have a question for you." He goes, "How the heck did this happen? Like, folks got divorced at 12, no college education, making pizzas, doing construction, used to work at a mall kiosk. Like, now you built like multiple multi-million-dollar businesses and done billions in revenue." He's like, "How did that happen?" And it happened with this idea of saying to yourself, I put all of those formulas and frameworks into a book, saying, this is how I did it. Like, these are the formulas, the frameworks, the mindsets, the heart sets, the skill sets that it takes to go be the one in your own life.
So powerful. If people listen to one thing from this whole entire podcast, it's that identity piece, because I don't think that you would be here, right, with the success that you've had, with the book that you put out, unless you believed you were the one. Well,
Yes.
probably before you ever had the concept of the book, right?
Yes, 100%.
You made a decision and you believed that, and nothing happens without belief. Nothing at all. So I love that we're ending on that, because there's just so much in there for people to sit on, making the decisions, living the values, trusting yourself. And it all starts with knowing that you are the one. And also, like I said, we both come from these separated families without the college education. You can still be the one regardless of what your story was in the past,
Yes.
regardless of what you come from, regardless of the people before you, how they showed up as the one, you still are the one. So Gosh, thank you so much for everything that you're putting out there, Justin. The product, the inspiration, the leadership, you truly are doing something that makes a difference and making a difference out there.
Thank you so much. I've loved getting to know you, and I love you know how people show up with a certain level of energy or vibe, like they just show up and you're like, man,
Yeah.
I like me best when I'm with you. I want to see you again. That's kind of how I feel about
Yeah.
you. Like you just have that
Yeah.
real powerful energy that you show up with, and so I've loved getting to know you, and I'm excited to deepen the friendship as we continue.
Thank you. Feelings are mutual, Justin. Thank you. Thank you. So, for everyone that's listening, make sure you check out Make Wellness as a brand. Be the One, Justin's book. I'll put everything in the show notes, but remarkable stuff you're doing out there. Thank you again. And I'm sure we will be in touch and be doing something soon, Justin.
Love it. Thank you.
Absolutely love that episode. If you are as inspired as I am by Justin's story, share the episode, pass it along, give somebody else the belief that they are the one and that anything is possible, because he surely showed us that. Like the episode, comment on the episode, subscribe to it if you want more of sharing wisdom.